The day Earth was marked. Far beyond the stars, in a cold and silent part of the galaxy, a massive alien command station floated in the darkness of space. The station was larger than many moons, covered with powerful antennas, glowing lights, and thousands of warships surrounding it like loyal guards. Inside the command center, tall alien commanders stood around a giant holographic map of the galaxy. The map showed thousands of star systems. Some of them were glowing green, meaning they belonged to the Empire. Others were dark, empty spaces where civilizations once lived. This empire had ruled the galaxy for a very long time. For thousands of years, they had explored star systems, discovered new planets, and destroyed any civilization that could become a threat. To them, weaker species were nothing more than obstacles. Whenever they found a new planet with intelligent life, they studied it carefully. If the species looked dangerous in the future, the Empire destroyed it before it could grow stronger. And today, the scanners had found something interesting. A small blue planet in a quiet star system. The planet was called Earth. One alien officer moved his long fingers across a control panel. The holographic map zoomed in toward a yellow star. Around that star were several planets. But the third planet caught everyone's attention. The blue planet slowly rotated in the hologram. Oceans covered most of its surface. White clouds moved across the sky. Green land spread across the continents. It looked peaceful. But the scanners showed something else. Life. Intelligent life. The commanders began studying the planet's data. They watched recordings of human history that their probes had secretly collected for many years. They saw humans fighting wars. They saw powerful explosions. They saw strange flying machines and weapons. But they also saw something that made them laugh. Humans were divided. Different countries, different languages, different leaders. One alien commander spoke in a calm voice. "This species is primitive." Another commander nodded. "They are still fighting each other. Their technology is weak. Their space travel is limited." The alien emperor sat on a large throne in the center of the room. His armor was dark and heavy, and his glowing eyes slowly watched the rotating image of Earth. "Could they become a threat in the future?" he asked. One of the scientists answered, "Possibly. Humans evolve quickly. Their technology improves faster than most species we have studied." The room became quiet. The Empire had learned an important lesson long ago. It was always better to destroy a possible enemy early. The Emperor raised his hand slowly. "Then we will not take the risk." One of the officers typed a command into the system. Across the entire galactic network, a message was sent. Planetary target selected. Target number 7391. Planet name Earth. The order was simple. Earth would be destroyed. Inside the command center, no one showed emotion. To them, this was a normal decision. They had done this many times before. Entire civilizations had disappeared because of orders like this. In another part of the galaxy, many different alien species received the same message. Some of them looked at the announcement with sadness. Others ignored it completely. When a planet was marked as a target by the Empire, its fate was already decided. No one could stop them. On Earth, however, the people had no idea what had just happened.
Cities were full of life.
Cars moved along busy streets. Children played in parks. Scientists worked in laboratories. The sky above Earth looked calm and peaceful. But far away in deep space, the invasion fleet had already started preparing. Thousands of giant warships powered their engines. Weapons were loaded. Navigation systems locked onto the solar system. The alien commanders believed the mission would be easy. They had destroyed stronger civilizations before. Earth would not be different. Back in the command center, the Emperor watched as the fleet began forming around the station. One officer reported, "Invasion fleet will reach the target system in 16 hours. The Emperor nodded. "Good, end this quickly." But at that exact moment, something unexpected happened. One of the communication officers suddenly looked confused. "Your Majesty, we are receiving a signal." The Emperor turned his head. "A signal? From where?" The officer checked the screen again. His voice became uncertain. "It is coming from the target planet." The room became silent. That was impossible. Earth had never made contact with the galactic network before. How could they send a signal here? The officer opened the message file. A simple transmission appeared on the screen. It contained only a few words. The alien commanders leaned forward to read it. For the first time in many years, The Emperor looked surprised, because the message was not a request for mercy. It was not a surrender. It was a warning, and it came directly from Earth. At that moment, no one in the room realized that this small message was about to change the future of the entire galaxy. The message that shocked the galaxy. Inside the massive alien command station, silence filled the room. Every commander was staring at the glowing message on the screen. For thousands of years, the Empire had destroyed many civilizations. Every time a planet was marked as a target, the same thing happened. The species on that planet usually discovered the invasion too late. And if they did manage to send a message, it was always the same. They begged. They asked for mercy. They offered their planet, their resources, or their loyalty. But this message from Earth was different. The communication officer slowly read the words again, just to make sure there was no mistake. The message said, "If you come to destroy us, make sure you bring everything you have." For a moment, no one spoke. Then one of the alien commanders laughed loudly. A threat? From a primitive planet. Several others began laughing as well. To them, the message sounded almost funny. Earth was a small and weak civilization compared to the Empire. Their space technology was basic. Their weapons were simple. They had not even built colonies outside their own star system. And yet they were sending a warning. The alien emperor slowly stood up from his throne. His glowing eyes looked carefully at the message. "Are we certain this transmission came from Earth?" he asked. "Yes, Your Majesty," the officer replied. "The signal source is confirmed. Planet Earth." The emperor remained quiet for a moment. Something about the message felt strange. Civilizations that were about to face extinction did not normally speak like this. But after a few seconds, the emperor waved his hand dismissively. "It does not matter," he said calmly. "Prepare the invasion fleet." The commanders immediately began issuing orders. Across the giant station, alarms and signals started moving through the military systems. Warships powered their engines. Massive weapons charged with glowing energy. Navigation computers calculated the path toward the solar system. Within minutes, thousands of battleships began forming a massive fleet around the station. The Empire had decided to send one of its largest invasion forces, not because Earth was dangerous, but because the Emperor wanted to send a message to the entire galaxy. No species was allowed to challenge the Empire. Far away, many alien civilizations were watching the events through the Galactic network. News about the strange human message had already spread. Different species reacted in different ways. Some of them were confused. Some thought humans were simply foolish. Others were curious. One alien scientist from another star system studied the message carefully. He spoke quietly to his colleagues. "Something about this is unusual," he said. "What do you mean?" another asked. "Species that know they are about to die do not send messages like this." But no one could explain what it meant. Meanwhile, inside the alien command station, the invasion fleet was almost ready. The main fleet commander stepped forward and reported to the Emperor. "Your Majesty, the fleet is prepared. Over 12,000 warships are ready for departure." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Good, begin the operation." Outside the station, the giant fleet began to move. Thousands of ships turned toward the distant stars. One by one, their engines ignited with bright blue light. Then the fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel. Within seconds, the entire armada disappeared into the darkness of space. Their destination was simple: the solar system. Back on Earth, something very different was happening. Deep below the surface of the planet, in a hidden underground facility, a group of human scientists and military leaders stood around a large digital display. The screen showed a map of the solar system. Small blinking signals began appearing at the edge of the system. Each signal represented an approaching alien warship. The room was quiet. Everyone understood the situation. The alien empire had taken the message seriously. A massive invasion fleet was now coming directly toward Earth. One of the scientists looked at the screen and took a slow breath. So it begins." A military officer standing nearby crossed his arms. "We knew this day might come." Another scientist spoke calmly. "For years we prepared for this moment." The large screen zoomed out, showing something hidden in the darkness of space. Around the outer edges of the solar system, several strange objects were quietly floating. They looked like small satellites. But they were not normal satellites. They were part of something much bigger. Secret defense systems. Humanity had been building them for many years. Very few people on Earth knew they existed. Another officer turned toward the main commander. "The alien fleet will reach the outer system in a few hours," he said. The commander nodded. "Then we continue with the plan." He looked at the screen again. For centuries, humans had looked at the stars with curiosity and hope. They wondered if other intelligent life existed. But now the truth had arrived. And it had come with warships. Still, the commander did not look afraid. Instead, he smiled slightly. "Let them come," he said quietly. Above Earth, the night sky looked peaceful. Cities were glowing with lights. People were sleeping, working, or watching the stars. Most of humanity still had no idea what was coming. But in deep space, the alien fleet was already moving closer. Thousands of giant warships were rushing toward the solar system. The commanders of the Empire expected the same result they had seen many times before. Another planet. Another destroyed civilization. Another forgotten world. But they did not understand one important thing. Humanity's secret. Far beyond the orbit of Pluto, deep in the cold darkness of space, the alien invasion fleet suddenly appeared. Thousands of warships exited faster than light travel at the edge of the solar system. Their engines glowed bright blue as the massive armada slowly formed its attack. Formation. The fleet stretched for thousands of kilometers. Huge battleships moved to the front. Carrier ships full of fighters stayed in the middle. Heavy destroyers guarded the outer edges. To any normal civilization, this fleet would have looked impossible to stop. Inside the command ship, the alien fleet commander watched the solar system appear on the main screen. The yellow star burned quietly at the center. Several planets moved in slow orbits, and the third planet, Earth, looked small and peaceful from this distance. The commander spoke calmly. "Confirm target." A navigation officer answered immediately. "Target confirmed. Planet Earth." The commander crossed his arms. "Begin forward movement. Weapons remain on standby." The fleet slowly started moving deeper into the solar system. Everything looked normal. Too normal. One of the alien sensor officers suddenly looked confused. "Commander, I'm detecting strange signals." "What kind of signals?" the commander asked. "They appear to be small artificial objects, floating in deep space." The commander frowned. "Debris?" "Negative," the officer replied. "They are organized. They appear to be machines." The main screen zoomed in. Several tiny objects appeared on the display. They looked like simple satellites. The commander relaxed slightly. "Primitive technology," he said. "Probably communication satellites." But the sensor officer did not look convinced. "There are thousands of them," he said slowly. At that moment, the entire alien fleet passed an invisible line in space. And suddenly, everything changed. Across the solar system, thousands of hidden human satellites activated at the same time. For years, they had remained silent, quiet, invisible. But now their systems powered on. Energy flowed through their internal cores. Hidden weapons slowly unfolded. Back on Earth, inside the underground command center, alarms began flashing across the giant control screen. A young technician looked up. "Defense grid activated." The main commander stepped forward. "Status? All outer system stations are online." Another scientist added, "Alien fleet has crossed the activation line." The commander looked at the screen. Hundreds of blinking signals showed the positions of the alien ships, but surrounding them, thousands of smaller signals suddenly appeared, human defense satellites. They had been placed all across the solar system, hidden near asteroids, floating between planetary orbits, even disguised as space debris. For years, humanity had quietly built a defensive network, not because they wanted war, but because they knew one day someone might come. The commander took a slow breath. "Phase 1, he said. Back near the alien fleet, something strange began happening. Several satellites suddenly moved closer to the warships. The alien sensor officer noticed it immediately. "Commander, objects are moving." "Moving?" the commander asked. "Yes, they are surrounding the fleet." The commander narrowed his eyes. "Scan them." The sensor officer quickly ran a deeper analysis. His eyes widened. "Commander, they are not communication satellites." "What are they?" The officer hesitated. "They appear to be weapon platforms." Before the commander could respond, the first satellite fired. A thin beam of bright white energy shot through space. One alien destroyer exploded instantly. The blast lit up the darkness. Inside the command ship, alarms began screaming. "Enemy attack detected." "What?" The commander looked at the screen in disbelief. Another beam fired, then another. Within seconds, dozens of alien ships were hit by the hidden satellites. Explosions spread across the fleet. Fire and debris floated through space. The commander slammed his hand onto the console. "How is this possible?" The sensor officer shouted. "There are thousands of them." The human defense grid had activated completely. Energy beams fired from every direction. Missiles launched from hidden platforms. The alien fleet was suddenly surrounded by weapons they had never detected. Several alien captains began shouting through the communication channel, "Multiple ships destroyed. We are under attack from all sides. Defense shields failing." Back on Earth, the underground command center watched the battle unfold on the screen. Human scientists and officers stood silently as the alien fleet struggled to react. One scientist spoke quietly. "They thought we were weak." Another nodded. They never looked carefully. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this exact moment. Secret projects had been created across the planet. New technologies had been tested far away from public view. While the world continued with normal life above the surface, a hidden defense system had slowly grown in space, and now it was finally being used. The main commander watched the explosions across the alien fleet, but he did not celebrate. He knew this was only the beginning, because the alien empire was powerful, very powerful. He turned toward the communications officer. "Send the next message." The officer nodded. "Transmission ready." A signal began traveling through the galactic network. Across the galaxy, many alien civilizations suddenly received another message from Earth. It contained only a short sentence, but this time the words were very clear. "This is your final warning." Back in the solar system, the alien fleet commander stared at the burning remains of several destroyed ships. The explosions from the first attack were still spreading across the alien fleet. Broken pieces of destroyed warships slowly drifted through the dark space near the edge of the solar system. Fires burned along damaged hulls, and emergency signals flashed across the alien communication channels. Inside the alien flagship, alarms were ringing everywhere. The fleet commander stood near the main control screen, watching the battle unfold with growing anger. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. One officer quickly checked the damage reports. 32 destroyers destroyed, 12 cruisers heavily damaged, several fighter carriers disabled. The commander clenched his fists. This was not supposed to happen. They had fought powerful civilizations before, but none of them had hidden such a large defense system inside their own star system. Another officer spoke nervously. "Commander, those small human satellites are still firing." The screen zoomed out, showing thousands of glowing points surrounding the fleet. Each one was a human defense platform. Energy beams continued striking alien ships from every direction, but the alien empire was not weak. The commander quickly regained control of the situation. "All ships activate defensive shields," he ordered. "Target the satellites and destroy them." Within seconds, the alien fleet began fighting back. Massive plasma cannons rotated toward the small human satellites. Bright red beams shot across space. One by one, several satellites exploded. But destroying them was not easy. There were too many. Some were hidden behind asteroids. Others moved quickly through space using small engines. Even when one was destroyed, two more appeared from another direction. Inside the human underground command center on Earth, the battle was being watched carefully. A giant screen showed every part of the solar system. Hundreds of small explosions appeared across the map. Human satellites were being destroyed, but the alien fleet was losing ships as well. One young technician spoke quietly. "They are adapting quickly." A scientist nodded. "Yes, their technology is advanced." The main commander looked at the screen calmly. "Phase 2, he said. Immediately, several new signals appeared on the map. These signals were much larger than the satellites. They were human warships. Hidden shipyards near the moon suddenly opened large armored doors. From inside the darkness, sleek human spacecraft slowly moved forward. These ships looked very different from the alien battleships. They were smaller and faster. Their design was smooth and narrow, built for speed rather than size. Within minutes, dozens of human warships launched into space. More ships followed from hidden stations around Mars and several asteroids. Humanity had quietly built an entire defensive fleet, and now it was finally entering the battle. Back near the alien fleet, the commander noticed the new signals immediately. "Commander," the sensor officer said, Multiple enemy ships detected. How many? The commander asked. Over 200. And more are appearing. The commander stared at the screen. 200 ships would normally not be enough to challenge a fleet this large. But after the satellite attacks, the alien fleet was already damaged and disorganized. Launch fighters, the commander ordered. Thousands of small alien fighter ships quickly exited the large carriers. Like a swarm of insects, they rushed toward the incoming human fleet. Meanwhile, the human ships moved quickly through space, flying in tight formations. Their engines glowed bright white as they accelerated toward the enemy. Inside one human warship, a young pilot sat in the command chair. Her name was Captain Elena Cruz. She looked calmly at the approaching alien fighters. Enemy fighters detected, her co-pilot reported. Elena smiled slightly. Good. Let's welcome them properly. She pressed a control button. Several small missile pods opened along the sides of the ship. Fire. Dozens of missiles launched into space. Other human ships did the same. Hundreds of missiles rushed toward the alien fighters. The dark space suddenly filled with bright explosions. Alien fighters tried to dodge the missiles, but many were destroyed instantly. The first wave of fighters was almost completely wiped out. Inside the alien flagship, the fleet commander stared at the battle in disbelief. These humans fight like trained soldiers, he said quietly. Another officer spoke nervously. Commander, we underestimated them. The commander looked angry. Yes, we did. But the alien fleet still had one big advantage. Numbers. They had thousands of warships. Humanity had only a few hundred. The commander raised his hand. All battleships prepare main weapons. The giant alien warships slowly moved forward. Huge cannons began charging with bright red energy. Each of those weapons was powerful enough to destroy an entire city on a planet. The human fleet was moving directly into their range. Back on Earth, the underground command center saw the same thing on their screens. The main commander knew exactly what was about to happen. If those alien battleships fired together, the human fleet would be destroyed instantly. One scientist spoke urgently. They are charging their main cannons. The room became tense. But the commander did not panic. Instead, he looked toward another officer. Activate the gate. The officer nodded. Gate activation sequence started. Far away in deep space, something unusual began happening. The empty space behind the human fleet suddenly started glowing. A large circular shape slowly appeared in the darkness. It looked like a giant ring made of bright energy. Inside the ring, space itself seemed to bend and twist. The alien sensor officer saw it first. Commander, detecting unknown energy structure. The fleet commander frowned. What is that? The officer shook his head. We have never seen technology like this before. Then the glowing ring suddenly opened. From inside the strange portal, dozens of new human warships emerged. Then dozens more, and more after that. Within minutes, an entire second human fleet appeared from the gate. The alien commander stared at the screen in shock. Impossible, he whispered. Humanity had just revealed another secret. They had learned how to open temporary space gates, which meant they could bring reinforcements instantly. The battle for the solar system was no longer a simple invasion. It had become a full galactic war. And now, the alien empire was no longer sure it could win. The sudden appearance of the second human fleet changed everything. For the first time since entering the solar system, the alien fleet was no longer in control of the battle. Inside the alien flagship, the fleet commander stood frozen as dozens, then hundreds, of human ships continued emerging from the glowing space gate. The sensor officer spoke with a shaking voice. Commander, new enemy ships still arriving. How many? The commander asked slowly. The officer checked the data again. Over 400 additional warships. The command room became silent. That meant humanity now had more than 600 ships in the battle, still fewer than the alien fleet. But the difference was no longer overwhelming, and humans had already proven something dangerous. They were full of surprises. The commander quickly regained his focus. All ships reorganize formation, he ordered. The alien fleet began adjusting positions in space. Damaged ships moved to the rear. Heavy battleships formed a defensive wall. Carrier ships prepared another wave of fighters. The commander knew this battle would no longer be easy, but he still believed the Empire would win. After all, the alien fleet had fought wars across the galaxy for thousands of years. No young species could defeat them. At least, that was what he believed. Meanwhile, the human fleets moved with perfect coordination. Instead of attacking randomly, the ship split into several groups. Each group targeted a specific section of the alien fleet. Inside one of the human command ships, Captain Elena Cruz watched the battle map carefully. Hundreds of red and blue signals moved across the screen. Red for alien ships, blue for human ships. A tactical officer stood beside her. "The alien fleet is forming a defensive wall," he said. Elena nodded. "They are trying to slow us down. What are your orders?" Elena leaned forward slightly. "Send the drone swarms." Moments later, small compartments opened on several human ships. From inside them, thousands of tiny drone fighters launched into space. They were much smaller than normal ships, but they were extremely fast. Like a cloud of metal insects, the drones rushed toward the alien fleet. The alien commanders noticed them immediately. "New enemy units detected," one officer shouted. The fleet commander looked confused. "Those ships are too small to be dangerous." But he was wrong. As the drones approached the alien ships, they suddenly changed direction. Instead of attacking directly, they spread across the fleet. Each drone targeted important systems: engines, weapons, shield generators. Then they exploded. Small explosions appeared across the surfaces of dozens of alien ships. The damage was not massive, but it was enough to disable several key systems. Some alien ships suddenly lost power. Others lost their weapon controls. Inside the alien flagship, the sensor officer shouted, "Multiple system failures across the fleet." The commander slammed his fist on the console. "Those drones are sabotage weapons." Across the battlefield, alien ships were struggling to respond. Their formation was breaking apart, and that was exactly what the humans wanted. Captain Elena saw the opportunity immediately. "All ships advance," she ordered. "Target isolated enemy vessels." Human warships accelerated forward. Energy weapons fired across the darkness. Missiles streaked between the fleets. Several alien destroyers exploded in bright flashes of light. The battlefield had turned into chaos. Far away across the galaxy, many alien civilizations were watching the battle through the Galactic network. News of the conflict had spread everywhere. At first, most species expected the alien empire to win quickly. But now, the situation looked very different. One alien observer whispered in disbelief, "The humans are winning." Another species watched the battle recordings carefully. "How is this possible?" they asked. "They are a young civilization." But the answer was becoming clear. Humans did not fight like most species. Most civilizations preferred safety. They avoided risks. They surrendered when defeat seemed certain. Humans were different. They fought with creativity, with courage, and sometimes with complete madness. Back in the solar system, the alien fleet commander watched another group of his ships explode on the main screen. His officers looked nervous. "We are losing too many ships," one of them said. Another added quietly, "The humans are adapting faster than we expected." The commander slowly sat down in his chair. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt something new: doubt. He looked again at the image of Earth rotating peacefully on the screen. Just a few hours ago, he believed it would be the easiest conquest in the Empire's history. Now he understood something important. Earth was not just a planet. It was the home of a species that refused to surrender, and that made them extremely dangerous. Back on Earth, inside the underground command center, the human leaders watched the battle carefully. Human ships were still being destroyed, but the alien fleet had already lost hundreds. The balance of power was slowly changing. A young scientist looked at the commander, but it was enough to disable several key systems. Some alien ships suddenly lost power. Others lost their weapon controls. Inside the alien flagship, the sensor officer shouted, "Multiple system failures across the fleet." The commander slammed his fist on the console. "Those drones are sabotage weapons." Across the battlefield, alien ships were struggling to respond. Their formation was breaking apart, and that was exactly what the humans wanted. Captain Elena saw the opportunity immediately. "All ships advance," she ordered. "Target isolated enemy vessels." Human warships accelerated forward. Energy weapons fired across the darkness. Missiles streaked between the fleets. Several alien destroyers exploded in bright flashes of light. The battlefield had turned into chaos. Far away across the galaxy, many alien civilizations were watching the battle through the Galactic network. News of the conflict had spread everywhere. At first, most species expected the alien empire to win quickly. But now, The situation looked very different. One alien observer whispered in disbelief, "The humans are winning." Another species watched the battle recordings carefully. "How is this possible?" they asked. "They are a young civilization." But the answer was becoming clear. Humans did not fight like most species. Most civilizations preferred safety. They avoided risks. They surrendered when defeat seemed certain. Humans were different. They fought with creativity, with courage, and sometimes with complete madness. Back in the solar system, the alien fleet commander watched another group of his ships explode on the main screen. His officers looked nervous. "We are losing too many ships," one of them said. Another added quietly, "The humans are adapting faster than we expected." The commander slowly sat down in his chair. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt something new. Doubt. He looked again at the image of Earth rotating peacefully on the screen. Just a few hours ago, he believed it would be the easiest conquest in the Empire's history. Now he understood something important. Earth was not just a planet. It was the home of a species that refused to surrender, and that made them extremely dangerous. Back on Earth, inside the underground command center, the human leaders watched the battle carefully. Human ships were still being destroyed. But the alien fleet had already lost hundreds. The balance of power was slowly changing. A young scientist looked at the commander. "Do you think they will retreat?" The commander thought for a moment. "No," he said. "The Empire is too proud to retreat." He looked again at the battle map. "But they are beginning to understand something." "What is that?" the scientist asked. The commander answered calmly, "That attacking humanity was a mistake." And across the battlefield, as explosions continued lighting the darkness of space, the galaxy began realizing the same thing. Humans were not just another species. Humans were something new, something unpredictable, something dangerous, and the war for Earth was far from over. The battle for the solar system had been raging for hours. Across the darkness of space, hundreds of destroyed ships floated silently. Broken pieces of metal drifted between planets. Small fires burned along damaged hulls, slowly fading into the cold vacuum. Both sides had suffered heavy losses. But one thing was now clear. The alien empire had expected an easy victory. Instead, they had found a war. Inside the alien flagship, the fleet commander stood quietly in front of the massive control window. Outside, the battlefield stretched across millions of kilometers. Human ships moved quickly between the alien formations. Energy weapons flashed through space. Missiles exploded against powerful shields. The commander listened as his officers continued reporting damage. "Commander, we have lost over 400 ships. Shield generators on multiple battleships are failing. Fuel reserves are dropping faster than expected." Each report made the room heavier with tension. The alien commander slowly closed his eyes. For centuries, the Empire had believed something very simple. No young civilization could challenge them. But Earth had proven that belief wrong. He opened his eyes again and looked toward the sensor officer. "How many human ships remain?" The officer checked the data carefully. "Approximately 500 active warships." The commander frowned slightly. Despite the losses, humanity still had a strong fleet. And something even more dangerous: confidence. Across the battlefield, human ships were moving with increasing coordination. Their attacks had become faster and more precise. It was clear they had studied alien tactics during the fight, and they were learning. Very quickly, the alien commander finally made a difficult decision. "Send a message to the Emperor," he said quietly. One officer looked surprised. "You wish to report the situation?" "Yes," the commander answered. "For the first time in our history, we may need reinforcements." The message was immediately transmitted through the Empire's long-range communication network. But before the reply could arrive, something unexpected happened. Across the battlefield, the human fleet suddenly stopped advancing. Several alien officers noticed it immediately. "Commander, human ships are changing formation." The commander looked at the screen. The human fleet was slowly pulling back. Not retreating, just moving away from the center of the battlefield. It looked almost like they were making space for something. "What are they doing?" the commander asked. No one had an answer. Then the sensors detected something strange. "Commander, massive energy readings detected near Earth." "How massive?" he asked. The sensor officer stared at the screen with wide eyes. "Extremely high. Back on Earth, inside the underground command center, the atmosphere was very tense. Everyone in the room knew this moment was important. For years, one final system had been kept secret, even from most of the world's governments. It had only one purpose: to make sure Earth would never be defenseless again. The main commander looked toward the chief scientist. "Is the system ready?" The scientist nodded slowly. "Energy levels are stable." Another technician spoke. "Target lock confirmed." The commander took a deep breath, then activated. High above Earth's atmosphere, something enormous slowly began to appear. Hidden satellites around the planet moved into position. Energy beams connected between them. Together they formed a giant ring around the planet. At the center of the ring, space itself began glowing bright white. Inside the alien flagship, the sensor officer suddenly shouted, "Commander!" Massive energy structure detected near the target planet. The main screen zoomed toward Earth. Every alien officer in the room stared at the image. A gigantic glowing structure now surrounded the blue planet. It was larger than any weapon they had ever seen. "What is that?" one officer whispered. The commander said nothing. For the first time in his life, he felt something close to fear. Then the weapon activated. A beam of pure white energy shot from the ring into deep space. But it did not strike the alien fleet. Instead, it passed directly beside them. The beam continued traveling for millions of kilometers. Finally, it hit a large asteroid floating far beyond Mars. The asteroid instantly disappeared. It did not explode. It simply vanished. Erased from existence. The alien officers stared at the screen in horror. The commander slowly understood what the humans had just shown them. That weapon had not been used against the fleet. It had been a demonstration, a warning. Back on Earth, the human commander turned toward the communication officer. "Send the final message." The signal traveled across the battlefield. Then it spread through the Galactic communication network. Within seconds, countless alien civilizations received the same transmission. The message from Earth appeared on their screens. It said, "We did not start this war. We only defended our home. But remember this moment. If you threaten Earth again, we will not hold back." Inside the alien flagship, the fleet commander read the message slowly. Then he looked back at the glowing weapon surrounding Earth. He finally gave the order he never thought he would say. "All ships, withdraw from the solar system." Several officers looked shocked. "Commander, retreat?" "Yes," he said quietly. "This battle is over." One by one, the surviving alien ships turned away from Earth. Their engines ignited as they prepared to leave. Across the galaxy, millions of observers watched the impossible event. For the first time in recorded history, the alien empire had retreated from a battle, and they had retreated from Earth. Back on the blue planet, most humans still looked up at the stars without knowing how close their world had come to destruction. But across the galaxy, a new truth had already spread. Humanity was no longer just another young civilization. Humanity was a warning, a species that would fight, a species that would survive, and a species the galaxy would never underestimate again.